daily dose of debate, breaking news, and uncensored views. This is the Michael Medved Show.
And another great day in this greatest nation on God's green earth. Another great week. It could be the week we finally end the government shutdown, but probably not before we go a few more days and break the all-time record for government shutdowns. What does that mean for our future? What does it mean for the future of American politics? We'll have a better indication on Tuesday, which is election day across the country, where there are major states that are holding very important elections. One in particular that hasn't gotten much attention is California, where they have a proposition that is sponsored very strongly by Governor Gavin Newsom, which, if it passes, could capture 5 additional congressional districts for Democrats. Meanwhile, is the United States going to war? This is a very real question, given the fact that President Trump posted on social media over the weekend, quote, "I am hereby instructing our Department of War," you'll notice he doesn't say Department of Defense, he says Department of War, "to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians." Cherished is capitalized here. Where is he talking about? What is he planning to attack? Who is he planning to attack? Actually, he's planning to attack, at least according to his own statements on Truth Social, one of America's strongest allies and one of the largest countries, in fact, the largest country, 230 million people in Nigeria. We will get to this and the basis for a possible U.S. attack that would be really fast, vicious, and sweet. And speaking of sweet, there is a headline which says, it sounds like the start of a very bad joke. The headline says, Hasidic Jewish leaders endorse a Muslim in a gay bar. Where? In New York City. Where else? The Muslim in this case is Zohran Mamdani. And you'll notice I'm trying to be very careful to pronounce the name correctly because there's a lot of criticism given the fact that he is likely to win the contest as mayor of New York. But there are various sources that say that in the polls, Andrew Cuomo is moving closer. He's not running behind by 20 points as he was at one point, and may be closer within the range of 10 points, and who knows, it's New York. We will find out what is happening there. There is also, today, CNN is reporting that the Trump administration said today that it will provide partial food stamps benefits for November. We're in November. Welcome to the second to last month of this exhausting year. Okay, the Trump administration says it's going to provide partial food stamp benefits for November by tapping into the program's contingency fund amid the ongoing government shutdown. A U.S. Department of Agriculture official said in a sworn statement that the agency will use $4.65 billion from the contingency fund to pay the November benefits from the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which he said will be obligated to cover 50% of eligible households' current allotments. Recipients will not see the benefits immediately. Okay, first of all, the benefits for getting food could be delayed. Secondly, for some households that receive SNAP program benefits, covering 50%, well, it's better than nothing, but it's also could be real hardships for some 20 million to 40 million Americans. In court papers submitted earlier today, the administration said it decided against pulling funds from other sources of money to provide full SNAP benefits for November. The program costs roughly $9 billion for the month. That's for the month of November. And where are we going from there? More from CNN. CNN reporting the government shutdown is getting perilously close to setting a record. The Senate is returning to Capitol Hill as the stalemate enters its 34th day, 1 day shy of the previous shutdown record of 35 days set during President Trump's first term. Last week, Trump urged congressional Republicans to unilaterally end the shutdown by eliminating the Senate filibuster, the 60-vote threshold for passing legislation. But many in the GOP are opposed to the idea, including the Senate Majority Leader John Thune of South Dakota. They argue that the filibuster will serve as a key safeguard against Democrats passing transformative legislation the next time they're in power. So what do Trumpies say, the people who support President Trump? They want the filibuster to be over because they don't think the Democrats are going to be in power anytime in the near future. That the MAGA movement is going to be successful in shutting them away from power, so there's nothing wrong about getting rid of the filibuster. Of course, that is short-sighted, and it still involves a very fundamental change in the way the Senate operates. Washington is bracing for a pivotal week. Everyone agrees with that, with key elections across the country. New York City, of course, California, which we mentioned about reapportionment, Virginia, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. They have judicial elections that are very important. It all could give an indication of how people feel about President Trump and the MAGA movement. Washington is bracing for that pivotal week because of the elections, and this comes as a new CNN poll shows that Trump's overall approval rating stands at 37%. It's the worst of his second term in CNN polling and roughly equivalent to his 36% approval rating at this point in his first term. Americans are also broadly unhappy with the state of the country. 68% say things are going badly. Dissatisfaction is even higher with the economy. How many people rate the economy as in poor shape? 72%. And 47% name the economy and the cost of living as the top issues facing the U.S. The headline from the Washington Post with their major new poll, which we'll get into because it's fascinating. Americans broadly disapprove of how President Donald Trump is handling his job, and a majority say he's gone too far in exercising the powers of his office, according to the Washington Post, ABC News Ipsos poll. But a year out from the 2026 midterm elections, there is little evidence that negative impressions of Trump and his performance have accrued to the benefit of the Democratic Party, with voters split almost evenly in their support for Democrats and Republicans. The amazing thing here is when people look at the two major parties, they're negative on both. They don't like President Trump. They disapprove of him on all 8 of the major issues. There is strong disapproval, particularly on the economy. But that disapproval is just as strong with the Democrats. And that it creates a situation where Americans are grumpy. So what about that endorsement by Hasidic Jews of Zohran Mamdani? We'll get to that. And on the Michael Medved Show, so many big polls, some of them out just today, all of them showing the American people not happy with President Trump and certainly even less happy with the Democrats. Though the majority of people, and it is a majority, it's not overwhelming, but it's substantial, tend to blame President Trump and his Republican Party for the government shutdown, which they increasingly consider a serious threat. About 3/4 of people think the shutdown is a big threat. The public is rendering its own judgment, they say, from the Washington Post, and for their Ipsos ABC News Washington Post poll, the public is rendering its own judgment, and mostly in opposition to the president. The poll finds that 64% say he is going too far in trying to expand the power of the presidency. In other words, they embrace the no kings message. And majority say he is going too far in laying off government employees to cut the size of the federal workforce, in deploying the National Guard to patrol U.S. cities, and trying to make changes in how U.S. colleges and universities operate. None of that is popular. However, the Democrats can find only a few bright spots of their own in the new survey. Americans see the president and the two political parties as out of touch with their lives, but Democrats, whose popularity has hit low points in other national polls this year, are judged most harshly. While 63% of Americans see Trump as out of touch, and 61% see Republicans as out of touch, 68% say Democrats are out of touch. There has been no improvement for Democrats since a similar poll last April. Meanwhile, concerning this polling, the Trump approval rating in the new CNN poll released this morning, Trump's approval rating dropped to the lowest of his second term, 37%. 61% say that Trump's policies have made the economy worse. A congressional generic ballot shows a very close race, just as the Congress is closely divided. It shows the Democrats +5 ahead. The American people approval of Democrats, however, is only 29%. So who knows how people are going to vote? And Steve Kornacki, of MSNBC, spoke about the new NBC poll and its message to the political class. This is clip 11.
Our first poll since the spring, and what we find is a mood that has soured on Trump and the Republican Party in that time. An approval rating of 43% now in our new poll for Donald Trump. But check out our previous poll. This was back in March. 47-51. He was starting out, now well into his first year of the second term, down to a 43% job approval rating for President Trump. This, of course, coming against the backdrop of the government shutdown. We asked the question, who do you blame? 42% say Democrats in Congress, but 52% say it's either the president's fault or his party in Congress's fault.
Okay, meanwhile, President Trump, trying to counteract this negativity, appeared on 60 Minutes for the first time since he sued Paramount for what he alleged was a deceptively edited Kamala Harris interview on 60 Minutes during the campaign of 2024. Trump and Paramount settled outside of court, never went to trial. And Paramount admitted no wrongdoing, but they agreed to pay President Trump and to pay him a great deal of money, which with President Trump now appearing on the CBS program on 60 Minutes, he insists that it's relevant. This is clip 19, that 60 Minutes was forced to pay me because, quote, you can't have fake news. This is clip 19.
She failed because she couldn't speak. She wasn't a very intelligent person, in my opinion, but she couldn't speak properly. She could not speak. And actually, 60 Minutes paid me a lot of money. And you don't have to put this on because I don't want to embarrass you, and I'm sure you're not. I think you have a great new leader, frankly, because the young woman that's leading your whole enterprise is a great, from what I know, I don't know her, but I hear she's a great person. But 60 Minutes was forced to pay me a lot of money because they took her answer out that was so bad, it was election changing 2 nights before the election, and they put a new answer in. And they paid me a lot of money for that. You can't have fake news. You've got to have legit news. And I think that it's happening.
Mr. President?
I see good things happening in the news. I really do. And I think one of the best things to happen is this show and new ownership, CBS and new ownership. I think it's the greatest thing that's happened in a long time to a free and open and good press.
Okay, uncharacteristically positive. But then President Trump spoke about the longest shutdown in American history. This also from his 60 Minutes appearance. Clip 16.
We are now approaching the longest shutdown in American history.
Democrats' fault.
Under your presidency, we're talking about more than 1 million federal workers who are not getting a paycheck, including our air traffic controllers. You see there's traffic snarls out at the airports now.
Sure.
This weekend, food aid for more than 42 million Americans is set to expire. What are you doing as president to end the shutdown?
All we're doing is we keep voting. I mean, the Republicans are voting almost unanimously to end it, and the Democrats keep voting against ending it. You know, they've never had this. This has happened like 18 times before. The Democrats always voted for an extension, always saying, give us an extension, we'll work it out. They've lost their way. They become crazed lunatics. And all they have to do, Nora, is say, let's vote.
Okay, let's vote. Grab hands and vote. And the difficulty is that when they vote, they don't have that 60 votes that the Senate requires for this thing to be passed the Senate. And by the way, even if it is, then we have another government shutdown like 6 weeks later. It's just a few weeks before we have a second shutdown, unless they actually go back and settle the substance here. Speaking of settling substance, we'll be talking about somebody who knew how to do that, a great American president from the past. Which one? Well, we'll be talking to Bret Baier. That gives you a hint. We'll be right back on The Medved Show.
Why wait for Black Friday? Blink Friday starts now with up to 65% off Blink Smart Security. Check on your pets all season long with new Blink Mini 2K Plus plug-in cameras. See your gifts arrive in head-to-toe view with Blink Video Doorbell. Ready to use right out of the box. Just unwrap Blink and go. Pet setters to busy families. Blink Friday deals have your holidays covered. Tap the banner to save now.
And on the Michael Medved Show, you may remember that before President Trump seemed to kiss and make up with 60 Minutes, he had sued them for $10 billion. That's $10,000 million. And they agreed on an out-of-court settlement. They didn't pay President Trump. They made a donation to the President Trump Library. And instead of the $10 billion, it ended up being $6 million. And okay, so they got a donation to the library. The whole point that they 16 million. I said 10 million. I don't want to understate it. I'm glad here I'm fact checked in real time. I'm glad. So there could be a lawsuit here. The idea that Kamala Harris in that 60 Minutes interview during the campaign of 2024, that interview was deliberately edited to make her look good, just shows you what a flawed candidate she was, because the interview, even with the alleged editing to make her look more formidable, more articulate, more effective, more dynamic, all of that, it didn't work. She obviously lost the election, and when you see it, it's all sad, and it's amazing that they're arguing about it. Now, meanwhile, did they edit Trump to make him look bad last night? Well, I think most people look at things he said. He said things that were completely untrue and completely baseless, and there was an attempt at fact-checking in various sources, and you can keep on top of that. But for instance, the negativity that President Trump expressed about people that he is supposed to be working with, right, in order to end the government shutdown. People like, for instance, Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader in the Senate, where everything is bollocksed up right now. Here is President Trump on 60 Minutes, clip 18.
So then what happens on November 15th when the troops don't get a paycheck?
Schumer is a basket case, and he has nothing to lose. He's become, I just left Japan, he's become a kamikaze pilot.
Sounds like it's not going to get solved, the shutdown.
It's going to get solved, yeah. Oh, it's going to get solved.
How?
We'll get it solved. Eventually, they're going to have to vote.
You're saying the Democrats will capitulate?
I think they have to. And if they don't vote, that's their problem. Now, I happen to agree with something else. I think we should do the nuclear option. This is a totally different nuclear, by the way. It's called ending the filibuster.
But to do that, he'd need Senate Majority Leader John Thune to change Senate rules. Did you see John Thune said today they're not going to do that?
I know John doesn't. Well, John and a few others. But you know what? The Republicans have to get tougher. If we end the filibuster, we can do exactly what we want. We're not going to lose power.
And we're not going to lose power. The whole idea of the filibuster is to have the Senate counterbalance the House. And it used to be, by the way, in years past, it was they had to get 2/3 of the vote in the Senate. So they had to get 67 votes. Now that's been reduced. Harry Reid, you may remember, who was a Democrat, who was the Senate Majority Leader for a time. Harry Reid helped to reduce the number to 60 votes. And the fact is that they can settle this entire mess, the entire shutdown disaster can be settled if they can reach an agreement on the increase in costs of health care, which is something where Norah O'Donnell last night on 60 Minutes pressed Trump on that health care issue. This is clip 17.
But so you're saying your plan is to tell the Democrats to vote to end the shutdown?
Correct. Very simple.
And that you will put forward a health care plan?
No, we will work on fixing the bad health care that we have. Right now, we have terrible health care at too expensive for the people, not for the government, for the people.
But, Mr. President, with all due respect, you've been talking about fixing the health care insurance plan since 2015.
Because of the Democrats.
But since 2015, you've said you'd fix it.
I've been talking about it for a long time. We almost did it. We were one vote short. We would have had great health care.
That was in 2017, when Senate Republicans failed by one vote to partially repeal Obamacare.
We can make it much less expensive for people and give them much better health care.
But where is that
plan? And I'd be willing to work with the Democrats on it. The problem is they want to give money to prisoners, to drug dealers, to all these millions of people that were allowed to come in with an open border from Biden, and nobody can do that.
Okay, in other words, he is blaming the cost of health care on immigration, which, of course, is his big issue. But even on that issue, when you look at all of this polling, the major polls that are out today, they show that the majority of Americans don't think that President Trump is doing such a great job on immigration. They don't approve. They disapprove. And this is significant. Meanwhile, CBS asked President Trump if the Justice Department and Pam Bondi's indictments of James Comey, Letitia James, and John Bolton, all people who are well-known political enemies of President Trump, if those indictments count as political retribution. Remember, President Trump during the campaign used the word retribution and promised that he would be not only the voice, but the retribution for the American voters. Here's what he responded on concerning the indictments of Comey, James, and Bolton. This is clip 3.
James Comey, John Bolton, Letitia James were all recently indicted. There's a pattern to these names. They're all public figures who have publicly denounced you. Is it political retribution?
You know what? You know who got indicted? The man you're looking at. I got indicted, and I was innocent. And here I am because I was able to beat all of the nonsense that was thrown at me. And yet, when you go after a dirty cop like Comey, or a guy like Bolton, who I hear I don't know anything about it. I hear he took records all over the place. Who knows? Letitia James is a terrible, dishonest person, in my opinion.
Did you instruct the Department of Justice to go after
Not
her?
in any way, shape, or form. No, you don't have to instruct them because they were so dirty, they were so crooked, they were so corrupt that the honest people we have, Pam Bondi's doing a very good job.
Okay, that the idea you don't think influenced Pam Bondi and her decision to go after these people. By the way, who in the case of Comey, Comey is a lifelong Republican. And in the case of John Bolton, he is a distinguished Republican who served before as a UN ambassador in the Bush administration. And I mean, really? And President Trump insisting that he was indicted for various crimes and it was innocent with everything. A jury verdict in May of 2023, this is just a year before the election, found Trump liable for sexually and abusing and defaming Jean Carroll and ordered him to pay $5 million in damages. Trump made an unsuccessful counterclaim and in December 2024 lost his initial appeal. His request for an en banc hearing was rejected in June 2025. So no, he was not found innocent. More coming up. And on the Michael Medved Show, talking about the historic 60 Minutes interview with the President of the United States last night. And one of the things that has been fairly consistent in terms of the reaction to this televised encounter is that people who were looking for the gunfight at the OK Corral or some kind of confrontation where they had a direct shootout, they didn't get it. And they didn't get it not because President Trump was so moderate and so reasonable and so constructive. They didn't get it because Norah O'Donnell was basically, I think, going out of her way to try to be gentle and relatively positive toward the president. For instance, one of his bold-faced declarations during his everything he's accomplished in the first 9 months of his presidency. And there's an obvious follow-up to his declaration, but you didn't hear it. This is President Trump on all the things that he's been able to do to make America great again. President of the United States on 60 Minutes, clip 22.
We're now at the end of your first year of this second term. What do you hope to accomplish in the next 3 years?
Well, I hope I can have the same year that we had. Look, we have been acknowledged to have the greatest 9 months. You know, it's 9 months. The greatest 9 months in the history of the presidency. So if I can keep that going, I'll be very happy.
Who acknowledged him as having the greatest 9 months of the history of the presidency? His family. I mean, his cabinet certainly. I mean, whenever they have a cabinet meeting, Mr. President, what you have done is the greatest. I mean, yes, he hears that. But he hears it because he doesn't hear the other things. I mean, this is like his calculation about how well his meeting with Xi Jinping went. He was asked how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how did your meeting go? He said it was a 12. Okay, everything is the greatest, it's the biggest, and some of it is just directly contradicted by polling, and it's unanimous polling. The American people are not sold on this idea that President Trump is the greatest, who deserves new money in his honor and deserves a place on Rushmore. We're going to be talking a little bit later with Bret Baier, who's done Fox News, who has done a terrific new biography of Theodore Roosevelt, of Teddy Roosevelt. And Teddy Roosevelt, it's true, there were people, and not a small number of people, who considered him a great president while he was president. And again, he had a bond with the American people where he was phenomenally popular, got reelected in a landslide in 1904. In any event, it's very, very different from President Trump, and also different in the way that he handled foreign leaders. Trump was asked by Norah O'Donnell about rolling out the red carpet for Putin when they met in Alaska. And here's the way that encounter sounded, clip 25.
Ukraine, in August, I mean, you rolled out the red carpet for Vladimir Putin in Alaska, but there's been...
Well, I roll out the red carpet for everybody.
But there's been no ceasefire. Is he ignoring you?
Because I inherited a country where he thinks he's winning. That was a war that would have never happened if I was president.
So why won't Putin end this war?
But Nora, that was Joe Biden's war, not my war. I inherited that stupid war.
I inherited that stupid war, and it was Joe Biden's war. And the idea of rolling out the red carpet, did he roll out any red carpets for Zelensky, who is actually on the same side we are? And it is different. And O'Donnell asking, why is he ignoring you, about his relationship with Putin is important. And then, of course, she brought up the issue of testing nuclear weapons. We haven't had nuclear weapons testing here in the United States, by the United States, for 30 years. So why now? Here's President Trump, clip 24.
We have more nuclear weapons than any other country. I think we should do something about denuclearization. And I did actually discuss that with both President Putin and President Xi. We have enough nuclear weapons to blow up the world 150 times. Russia has a lot of nuclear weapons, and China will have a lot. They have some. They have quite a bit. But
so why
do
we need to test our nuclear weapons?
Well, because you have to see how they work. You know, you do have to. And the reason I'm saying testing is because Russia announced that they were going to be doing a test. If you notice, North Korea is testing constantly. Other countries are testing. We're the only country that doesn't test, and I don't want to be the only country that doesn't test.
Are you saying that after more than 30 years, the United States is going to start detonating nuclear weapons?
I'm saying that we're going to test nuclear weapons like other countries do, yes.
But the only country that's testing nuclear weapons is North Korea.
Well,
China and Russia.
No, Russia's testing nuclear weapons.
My understanding...
And China's testing them too, you just don't know about it.
And what about Iran? There's also this exaggerated claim by the president, clip 23.
The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia is coming to the White House this month. He has said they won't join the Abraham Accords without a two-state solution. Do you believe that?
No, I think he's going to join. I think we will have a solution. I don't know if it's going to be two-state. That's going to be up to Israel and other people and me. But look, the main thing is you could have never had any kind of a deal if you had a nuclear Iran. And you essentially had a nuclear Iran. And I blasted the hell out of them. And no president
Are you convinced they have no nuclear capability right now?
Do you want to know? They have no nuclear capability. No. Do you want to know that the pilots? I invited them to the White House because they were very brave. I mean, I wouldn't have wanted to do it. You know, get in a plane and they know you're coming and you're going right into Iran airspace, and you know they're very experts, and you're flying in with machines. Personally, I can think of other things I'd rather do. These guys are very brave people. I mean, they're real American heroes.
And the question about them having obliterated the Iranian nuclear capacity, overstated. And speaking of overstated, President Trump's explanation saying it's because of tariffs that the stock market has been robust and positive. Well, it's a point of view that most economists do not share. There's the president on tariffs. Clip 21.
What happens to your economic plan if the Supreme Court invalidates your tariffs?
I think our country will be immeasurably hurt. I think our economy will go to hell. Look, because of tariffs, we have the highest stock market we've ever had. Because of tariffs, 401ks at the highest level, and this is millions and millions of people that we've ever had, 401ks. I think it's the most important subject discussed by the Supreme Court in 100 years.
Okay, it is a very important subject, and it has to do with the power of the president. It has to do with the divisions in our government. But then there's more, which we will get to, because there's also the strange case of Marjorie Taylor Greene that we will get to, and why it is that in the nation of Nigeria, the most populous nation in Africa, and in many ways the most important, it's a nation of 230 million people. And the president of the United States is saying that that we will go in with guns ablazing and threatening to attack Nigeria. This was the president who is still angling for that Nobel Peace Prize. We'll be talking about a president who did win the Nobel Peace Prize. Theodore Roosevelt. Will be talking with Brett Baer of Fox News about a new book about Teddy Roosevelt and his greatness. Because by any measures of presidential greatness, it's what Trump aspires to, but a journey to travel. And one journey to travel before we finish the government shutdown as well, on behalf of this greatest nation on God's green earth.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here, wishing you a very happy half-off holiday, because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.